that decisions regarding armed conflict or the gravest decision of going to war are and must remain the prerogative of executive government, and there is no graver responsibility that any government bears. But alongside that reality, there is a clear and urgent need to significantly improve the transparency and accountability of governments for these decisions and the conduct of military operations. This need necessitates formal arrangements which should be put in place now, including via an appropriately empowered and resourced joint committee with the ability to handle classified material, classified national security material, appropriately. We've been saying around this parliament, under the former government, under this government, the vast majority of members of both houses, that our country faces the worst strategic circumstances we've faced since the Second World War. It's also true, Deputy Speaker, that the vast bulk of critical topics and questions that must be explored and understood by Parliament are currently off-limits due to a lack of power or classification issues. Things like what's really behind white papers and defence strategies. What contingencies are we actually planning for as a country, and are we prepared for? Frankly, 1/3 of the defence portfolio budget is largely off-limits to scrutiny from the Parliament because it involves sustainment. And the minute you do that in public, you may trigger vulnerabilities to potential adversaries, highlighting where stuff's not fit for service. It's ridiculous. This stuff consumes hundreds of billions of dollars of taxpayer funds. What is our planning for industry mobilisation in the event of contingencies? Matters relating to defence personnel and veterans, and I see the minister here at the table. I spent 2 hours here last Friday afternoon with senior ADF officers, 3 stars, 2 deputy secretaries, reviewing matters relating to the Defence Strategic Review and the National Defence Strategy with the subcommittee. It was a serious and thought-provoking discussion, but also frustrating and at times farcical. Throughout the discussion, we constantly and repeatedly hit brick walls, where senior officials said, with equal frustration, "We wish we could brief you on that and explain what we're doing. We wish we could explain to you our thinking and the importance of that capability or this thing. We wish we could talk with you about that question, because we're grappling with it also, and it's difficult. There are things that are at the intersection of the professional military, of our senior public servants and the Parliament, but we can't talk about them. The current situation is patently ridiculous and it needs to change, and urgently so. Frankly, this bill should pass both houses this week so we can get on with work." I'll make some gentle remarks about the opposition's current position. It's a little peculiar. More than that, I'd say it's bizarre, it's disappointing, it's irresponsible, it's frankly embarrassing for them. Senior members of the opposition, indeed literally every single opposition member I've spoken to over many months, a couple of years really, acknowledges the need for this to happen. They've been publicly calling for it. Indeed, they've written to us, asking for this bill to be accelerated. And I quote the Shadow Minister, wise words, Shadow Minister, you've been on the record publicly since 2020 calling for this. We should all agree. So it beggars belief that now they say they won't support it unless we fiddle the membership rules to lock out their political enemies. Now, the government's position on this has been clear from the beginning. The committee report, which everyone signed up to, recommended that it be modelled on the Parliamentary Joint Committee of Intelligence and Security, which has long enjoyed bipartisan support. The Liberal Party is trying to blackmail the government into agreeing to an undemocratic amendment that would stop Parliament ever appointing members of the crossbench to the committee. And on the other hand, the Greens political party say in their dissenting report they'd support the committee only if members of the crossbench are appointed. The government is committed to having this bill passed. In realpolitik, though, let's just call it out in plain English, the impasse is bizarre. The Liberal Party is incentivising the government to do a deal with the crossbench which they claim to oppose. The crossbench are doing the reverse. Both fringes of politics are acting in self-interest, not the national interest. I really encourage all of my colleagues to stop the silly game of parliamentary chicken and grow up, to pass the bill as it's drafted, modelled exactly on the long-standing PJCIS legislation.